Alright, last time, within the depths of the Feywild, straddling both the Winter Court and the Autumn Court, Aruda found them, and Ito found themselves transported away from the material plane, the town of Primrose and the forest juts outside, to a dark and frigid forest in the heart of the gloaming court of the Feywild. You initially sort of struggled just to survive the frigid cold, desperately sort of trying to make a fire and just keep yourselves as warm as possible to limited effect. At some point, during your preparations essentially, you heard what sounded like footfalls. You sensed something in the trees, eventually seeing a fairly severely wounded bear approach the fire, sort of a little bit cautiously first. After you sort of began inspecting it, realizing it had received a terrible slash across its haunches by what was definitely a sharp-bladed weapon, it was certainly no animal attack that had caused this. It's clearly the work of a sort of a race that had access to smithing at the very least. You sort of did a little bit to help him, and then you heard what sounded like footfalls as the bear kind of took off running into the distance. Ito managed to throw a hunter's mark on it to get a good idea of its direction as it retreated away, and soon a group of Eladrin riding stags that sort of glittered in the moonlight sort of rode up on you. Not like sexy style. Rode up on you like on their mounts. Unless that, I guess that could be sexy. But they actually seemed rather indifferent to your presence. Instead focusing largely on this bear that they were hunting, insisting that he was pretty dangerous, and you sent them off in the wrong direction. You managed to convince them that they had gone the wrong way after having managed to cover up the bear's tracks a bit. Eventually you decided, you know what, they did suggest that you get out of the cold, and told you the direction to head in to get to the Hall of the Moonlit King. But instead, you chose a different route in deciding to follow the bear that was wounded, the one that they had been chasing. As you managed to track its trail through the cold, bitter, frigid air around you closing in, and yet at the same time very slowly growing warmer in the eternal moonlit night that was the Winter Court. Slowly, the moon sort of sinking lower and lower into the air, and the sky beginning to lighten. Soon, the snow became less pronounced. There were patches of brownish dirt and grass, and trees began to have leaves on them. Eventually, you did manage to track bear down. But in doing so, you had an entire pot of honey thrown at you. You were surprised, slightly made sticky by the Bear King, the leader of the Autumn Court. The Bear King, however, did not immediately attack you. The aid that you rendered to his subjects, this bear, who you found out was actually suffering from lycanthropy. Or at least the form of it that turns him into a were-bear, not necessarily a were-wolf. You had aided him, and so he was willing to give you a little bit of a pass, welcome you into the Autumn Grove that is a small portion of the Autumn Court. A little bit despondent, you found out from the Bear King that the Autumn Court has shrunk significantly now, and it's in some places it's little more than groves that are surrounded by either the Summer Court or the Winter Court. and scattered around all over the place. He took your clothes, gave you a bath, had them laundered, gave you some very nice robes, and then welcomed you to his, basically, the heart of this grove. It had all sorts of animals, foxes and bears, and some sort of fey creatures that they seem like they are fairies or pixies or something like that, but they move with surprising speed around the grove, carrying trays to and from other tables, and just a group of merriment that is all around. And sitting in the heart of this grove is the throne of the Bear King, a massive structure that's been made of living wood that has been molded to form this throne. Bear King himself, and you saw a picture of him. He's a massive fellow that wears a large fur cape and has a big bushy beard, and wears a crown of various sort of green leaves and red berries. He carries a massive warhammer with him that sits ready at the side of the chair. You get the feeling that it's massive. It'd be difficult for you to wield its massive size, but the way he just sort of runs his hand over the top of it, you get the feeling he could lift it as easily as if it were a small tinkerer's hammer or a small rock cutting hammer, one of those things. You eventually sort of ended last week, um, not really having had the chance to talk to him. You kind of only got to meet him, to sort of come into his presence. But he looks at you for a long time. His eyebrows furrowed as if he's taking a measure of you. Eventually, in a deep, booming voice that I can't really replicate because I don't have a deep, booming voice, he looks at you and says, "You know, it's rude not to eat when you're offered food." He motions to the entirety of the grove that does have all sorts of roasted meats, fresh salads, things like that. "You look like you're starved half to death."
It's time to eat, Ida. I'll nudge you to the food, and I'm gonna go for the food.
I feel like, because Ito has heard like bedtime stories type of stuff about the Feywild, I feel like eating food is a bad idea here. But okay, roasted meat, you say?
Yes. Roasted meats, fresh salads, what appears to be some sort of candied berries. You can see the thick sugary glaze crystallized on them. These seem to be pretty popular as many of the small woodland animals, especially these strange, fast-moving fey creatures, dart over to them and scoop up a tiny little handful. As you see, they're only about maybe a foot and a half tall.
All right, two quick things. One, can I tell if the food's like magicked?
Yeah.
You can. Do you have detect magic?
I feel like casting detect magic in Feywild is a lot like turning on a radar of people detection when you're in a crowd.
I do have detect magic, but I also agree that's kind of like, yeah, it might come across as rude.
Then you'll have to.
That's a good point.
You can.
I'm not wearing my ring, am I? No, a ring of identifier is not gonna do it there. Never mind.
You could.
I mean, Ito will kind of like nudge Aruna and say, if they wanted to kill us, they could have already done it. And I will sit down, and I will. Or hang on, is anyone sitting?
No, you can see the
Or,
tables
or
are.
is this like a banquet kind of deal?
Actually, the tables are very squat, so you can sit on the sort of soft, sort of scrubby brown grass, and there are some animals that sit near it. You see off to one side the wounded werebear sort of takes a bite of something and disappears out back into the trees, escorted by a pair of these sort of quick-moving creatures. There's several animals around as well, sort of munching as that are sitting pretty happily, like some sort of as tame as a human, probably more tame than many children you've seen.
Ito will as I'm looking around at the food options, is there any correlation between what is sitting at the table and what is being served? I don't want to be sitting next to like a wild boar in front of a roast. Like
I feel like they just understand the circle of life, and that wouldn't be that big.
That's true, but I'm trying to see if Ito would pick up on that.
Gotcha.
Not that you can tell.
So like if I sit next to a bison and there's bison on the table, I'm not like immediately throwing up gang signs.
You can roll an insight check.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, or
11. Unless I had advantage.
oh, you go ahead. I'll think of what I'm gonna
The
say.
animals seem unperturbed by the meat. Abel, you even see there is a large boar that's sort of at the edge of the grove, sort of snuffling about through the leaves and the undergrowth. And at the same time, a roast boar on the table nearby, and he seems to pay it no mind. And looking at it, it seems each animal sort of sticks to their own food types. Like, you're not seeing things that only eat leaves, you know, herbivores eat meat, but none of them seem to mind the presence of the meat at all.
And you probably didn't have to say this, but I feel like this is something Ito would notice. Two things. Is Ito the only human here? And are Ito and Aruna the only humanoids here?
You and Aruna are the only humanoids, yes.
Okay, so all the werebears and stuff are in their bear form at the moment.
If they are current bears, the only other humanoid was the Eladrin that you saw briefly appear, the wounded one that grabbed something to eat and disappeared. Now there are the tiny little fey creatures that they do look vaguely humanoid. They have like dark blue skin and are very lithe. They're only about 1.5 feet tall, and they move with incredible speed. And they seem to really favor the candied like fruits and the candied nuts.
But there's no mortals that I can find.
No.
Understanding that I'm a guest here, I will take my seat, which again I understand it's not a chair, but I will take my seat in an available empty spot. Probably trying to find something relatively tropical in terms of food, given that he hasn't had anything that tastes like home in a while.
All right.
And if you're in the Feywild, you might as well eat well. Tommy, you're muted.
Oh, I was just saying, tastes like home.
Yes.
You do find what appear to be a very nice. It looks like a candied citrus fruit. You're not sure if it's lime or lemon. In fact, it might be nothing you've ever seen before. But it does have a faint citrusy aroma as soon as you approach it, and you can see it's got sort of crystalline sugar coating across it. The bowl, it sits in an earthenware bowl. The bowl itself is only half full. And as you're eyeing it, one of the small creatures sort of bumps into you almost as, "You gonna eat that?"
by all means, help yourself. I'll enjoy whatever is remaining.
The creature darts its hands out and takes 2 large pieces of the candied citrus, darts away, sort of giggling as he does so.
Ooh.
Yep, we're in the fucking Feywild.
You can
well,
make checks on these creatures.
Well, actually, Tommy had something. I was gonna let him.
Yeah. So as far as the avian variety of Feywild creatures here, like birds and such, do they look like fairly normal, Colin? Or are they very like mystical and like different varieties?
Looking up into the tree, the birds themselves look pretty normal. You see several sort of cardinals that blend in with the nearby red foliage. You see several sparrows and robins. You see a great looking pair of tits on a nearby branch.
Got 'em.
As well as several, what could just be large
Fucking
crows that roost in a nearby tree. Even though you don't hear it or see it, you can hear the hoot of an owl in the distance.
Okay.
But nothing looks particularly weird, although the birds are able to pay pretty apt attention. None of them dart away. And you can even see, despite the fact that a hawk does sort of soar overhead, none of the smaller birds react or shy away.
Okay. I was just trying to figure out if Bert would fairly go unnoticed if he
They
were
look
to-
normal, but they do have surprisingly probably higher intelligence than.
Okay. So technically, someone familiar, it is a fey creature, right? So Bert's technically smarter than a normal owl, or does he get that higher intelligence when he's in the Feywild? I know it's a weird question. Because I don't know if I summon him, if he'll keep his form that I have him in, or if he's more fey here.
Might be more comfortable.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, because he would, he'd be very good at flying about and finding out things for me. But we're not gonna worry about that. Yeah, I'll get some food and sit next to Ito and look like I'm enjoying myself, so the bear guy doesn't throw honey at me.
Connor knows how time works in the Feywild, but I feel like Ito's experiencing that live. How long has it been since we arrived?
Since you haven't seen a day or night cycle, you're not sure, but you do feel very tired.
Okay.
Whenever you were in the Winter Court area, the moon itself didn't set. It didn't set the same way you would expect it to. It wasn't a matter of time that caused it to set. It's as you left the heart of it, the heart of the sort of winter area, the moon just got lower and lower and lower in the sky. It's distant.
Got it. Because it isn't, because I remember somebody wrote something about that, but it's the Feywild's like a static image, right? It's not like a planet. It's like a single picture. So when you're walking in a direction, you're literally moving further away from the moon. Isn't that how it kind of works?
That is essentially the way it works here.
Sorry.
It's the same for the sun. As you walk into the heart of the summer court, the sun begins to rise. Right now, in the autumn court, it is essentially an eternal sort of twilight, the early or late afternoon, evening hours. No sun in the sky, but that same orangish purple glow, a little bit of blue as well.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna start eating, I guess.
Well, yeah. That's your final answer.
What's the host doing?
You can see he's currently a couple of these small beings have climbed up on the chair, and they're doing like one is sitting on the other's shoulders, and they're juggling tiny little pieces of candied like chestnut. And he seems a little bit bored by it.
I mean, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna start eating. I don't have my instruments. I don't know what else to do. So
Fuck yeah, make a wisdom saving throw against charm.
Oh shit! I have advantage.
Pretty good at that.
Hopefully.
my wife is screaming.
Even don't eat it.
That's pretty fucking good, Colin. 23 for me.
All right. You feel a sudden calmness that washes over you, as if this is a wonderful place to be, a perfect place to be. This is a magnanimous host that has opened up his home, his hearth, his food to you. You feel almost indebted to him for just a second. But then you kind of shake it off and realize that there was a charm spell that obviously placed on the food whenever you ate it, hoping to draw you in and give you a little bit more comfort and confidence, and make you a little bit more amenable to any sort of request that the Bear King might have.
Mm. Yeah, I was gonna ask after, before you said that, if it seemed malicious, but perhaps a request. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I imagine
Ito explodes.
Ito explodes. We'll just wait a
Yes.
second for him to get back.
Friend?
Make a wisdom saving throw against charm.
Where I have something against being charmed.
Probably do. That's like elf or something. I don't know.
That's under features, right?
Everybody's got something to protect against being charmed. Everybody.
Yeah, mine's under features. Mine's a passive ability called Fey Ancestry. So I'd assume yours would be there if you have something.
Oh no, mine's my paladin thing of I'm immune to disease.
Oops.
I don't think.
It is not a disease.
No.
I counterspell it. Not really.
Oh, hang on. Anybody who makes a saving throw while 10 feet from me, they get a bonus equal to my charisma modifier for that saving throw.
He already passed his, so
including me, right? I think. I'm pretty sure it's including me.
Yeah, paladins get a saving throw bonus too. That's just kind of like their thing to make up for their lack of like dexterity and dodging fireballs.
you get to cuddle. You get to cuddle with him.
That's pretty good.
So I got a 19.
Nice.
Okay. You feel initially a feeling of warmth and comfort, welcomeness that washes over you. Feeling that you're a completely welcome guest, and that you should be grateful to the Bear King for the hospitality that he's showing you. And almost immediately, you sort of shake your head and realize that it wasn't just grateful over the fact that he's offering you his hospitality. There was perhaps something a little bit more insidious. A charm spell on the food whenever you ate it. Make you a little bit more amenable and friendly to the Bear King.
And I know this.
Yes, if you passed it, you know.
And can I look at Aruna and tell if she is also unaffected?
I'm Gucci, friend.
No, I know you are. I'm trying to be. I don't know that.
I'll be like, Ida.
Or is there a moment where we're both just eating and we both just stop and look at across the table at each?
Yeah, that's a dirty fucking trick, Ida.
I'll look at our host, whose name I cannot recall.
He's the Bear King.
No, I know, but I thought he actually gave us a real name.
He's just the Bear King.
Yep.
I'll default to my lord, I guess, and I'll pause, see if there's any reaction to that, and assuming there's not, I'll say we did come to your court willingly. I don't know if such tactics are necessary here.
He you can see he sits there. Like I said, he's got a pair of of these two small fake creatures, basically, one sitting on the other's shoulders, like juggling candy chestnuts. Um, and he seems bored by them. And he actually looks over at you, eyebrow, and says, "What do you mean?"
Perhaps I am mistaken, but where I come from, we tend to try and win our guests over with words. This puppy. Oh my god, puppy. You're fine.
Hmm.
He's not having it.
I suppose you're not privy to the Feywild, the Fey Courts.
Can't say I've ever been. Well, I can now, but
I prefer have the people I want to work for me to be a little bit happier, a little bit more willing to say yes when I make a request to them, in such a way that I don't feel I have to force them to.
That's a super funny word for docile.
my lord, with all due respect, you had ample opportunity to just kill me and didn't. And
I'm
where
not
from, that
interested
makes
in
you a
killing
friend.
you. Oh, certainly not. Indeed, if you want to, I won't stop you if you leave this grove. You've earned that much. But I thought after your encounter with the Ladrin of the Court, you might be a little bit less willing to return into it.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm just managing a puppy.
You see, I would like you to do something. You've already seen that my own court and the Moonlit King are butting heads, and my strength wanes as his grows. That's why our friend here, as he motions back towards the woods where the... That's why it was there. Got caught out, I'm afraid. Stuck underneath the full moon.
Real quick, just as an introspective question, are Eladrins special, or are they just another race?
They are much rarer.
Okay.
Quite rare.
Because I know in like fourth they were just like elf plus, and in fifth they're their own thing, right?
They're basically elf plus. They have their own sort of alignment to the seasons, but they're basically elf plus. I mean, that's basically what Eladrin are. He says, I'm afraid my associate got caught out beneath the full moon phase. I believe he got perhaps stuck and wasn't able to retreat in time. All that will be determined later whenever I ask him more.
And they appeared to be hunting him for sport.
Oh. Every member of the Autumn Court is used to that by...
Okay. Let's put it this way.
But you wouldn't suffer from that. You wouldn't have to worry about it. You're certainly not any member of the Autumn Court. You don't even have to disguise yourself to pass.
What exactly is it you need us to do?
The aggression of the Winter Court has grown untenable. They expand their territories into mine and Spring Court, butting heads against the Summer. And as they grow in power, I hear whispers, plans, schemes to improve their standing even over that of the Summer Court, the only thing holding them in check in its favor. I don't know the exact details, but the Moonlit King is planning something important. That's why I sent someone in, hoping to find out.
Well, unfortunately, King, I think that I have a fairly good idea of what's going on, and maybe
And it
we
is
can help each other.
fortuitous that we have met.
How do you feel about a favor for a favor?
He sort of bows his head. Yes, and an apology. It was wrong of me to attempt to persuade you through magical means. But I hope you understand how dire circumstances are right now.
I believe I can speak for my friend and say that we are both quite accustomed with the concept of desperation.
A favor
In
for a
times
favor.
of enemy.
Well, I can say, under normal circumstances, this would be a... How to put this tactfully? I would feel bad for your court, but unfortunately this is a highly personal matter, and what we're doing now...
I would interject and would let Aruna say, perhaps we can finish with what he requests and then ask our terms.
Well, this isn't so much about terms so much as it is I'm not going to lie to him in his own court.
Probably wise, and I'm appreciative of it.
Well, I'm here for someone specifically, and it is, no offense to you and yours, of little to no consequence what happens to anyone else. But if both of us come out on top from this, there's absolutely no reason we can't work together. And I will say I feel I bear some responsibility for what's happening to you.
How would you be responsible for goings on of the Feywild?
I'm sure you've heard that the Moonlit King is after a bride, correct?
His news. Said, I knew he was planning something, was unsure exactly what.
Can Ito see, I should say, if Aruna is bluffing? Connor knows, because Tommy and Connor have talked about it, but I'm trying.
Oh, I ain't bluffing.
Roll an insight check.
Yeah, against my warlock charisma, I do not have.
10.
I mean, he's not making it's not an opposed roll because he's not trying to deceive anything. He's telling the truth.
Okay.
It seems like you get the feeling he is.
I was just trying to determine if Ito was on the line.
You're pretty sure he's telling the truth. You try to analyze it, and you don't hear any attempts at deception.
Okay.
But the Bear King does raise an eyebrow and says, "Now that is interesting."
Okay, so he doesn't know that the Moonlit King needs a bride, so he wouldn't know what she looks like. So next phase of the plan is not going to work for me. Okay. Well, the best way of putting it is, in another time, in another reality, that was probably meant to be me. But here we are.
Sort of uh, stands up, and you can see towers over you. Probably close to 8 or 9 feet tall and absolutely massive and rippling with muscle. And he sort of goes to you, and sort of leans down, and he actually sniffs you. Thought I could smell the touch of the moon on you.
Not exactly a common scent, I'm sure.
Far too common these days. That's even better. That would make it easier for you to go in.
Oh, thank God. Gotta say, we are definitely in the same realm of thought. Though I'm not sure with him, and I'll like point towards Ito, I'm not sure how easy it would be to smuggle him in without a little bit of magic.
I just said, could be.
But if there's someone that is very good at acting pompous and assholish like those fellows we met, it's him.
He sort of nods his head. That's likely why you were less suspect to them when they on you.
As a rule, I don't try and make a habit of cooperating with people that remind me of myself.
Well, thankfully, I think espionage and pretending to be their friend isn't under that umbrella, so...
Speaking of espionage, Colin, do you know how often I think, what if Ito had committed mail fraud?
But like pretending to be a man when he's obviously a woman.
Good. I'm so I'm so glad to be here.
I will not force you into this. But it seems that our purposes are at least momentarily aligned.
Well, we'll have to... Okay. To what extremes are we talking? Are we talking all-out war, assassination, undermining them? What exactly?
At the start, information. You don't just act immediately, and to tell you the truth, I doubt you could kill it. As I said, my power wanes and his grows.
Also, us being caught after, a bear incident might point a finger directly at you.
And even were he to die, there's always a king or a queen, or both. Someone will rise again. Oh, there will be a time where things go to balance. There might be a time where it's weakened. As I...
Okay. Well, since we're in this kind of like agreement state thing, I'm gonna whistle and I'll summon Bert to me out of his little pocket dimension. And then with the little telepathic link we have, I'll tell him to try to find my sister. Since he's a Feywild creature, I assume he knows some bearing, and we know the direction that those guys wanted us to go in, right?
You did get the general direction, and whenever you summon it, you're trying to summon Bert, he does not immediately appear, and
Okay.
the Bear King kind of looks at you.
Performance anxiety. This doesn't happen.
It takes a while, probably 5 minutes. And all of a sudden you hear a fluttering from within the trees as Bert doesn't appear, he flies through them. As a creature of the Feywild, he was already here. There's nowhere to pull him across the plains. But he does eventually arrive, having flown to you.
Okay. But yeah, I will try to relay the gist of where we think the Winter Court people came from, and have him scout it out and come back at his leisure. But I figure since he's a Feywild creature, he'll probably blend in a little bit better. Unless they're hunting him for sport.
Bert the owl sort of happily hops on your arm a couple of times, and then he actually flies over to the Bear King and lands on the throne and sort of looks down at him, and the Bear King sort of nods his head, and it takes off flying back the direction you came.
Alrighty. I do have an odd question. As far as the moon is concerned here, is that, as it is for me, like a power source or something that empowers them? Does it have phases?
You can roll a, I mean, you can ask him, or you can
I'm just
try to roll
straight up
a
asking him.
Arcana check. He says, very minorly.
Okay.
For the most part, their power is independent. I would say they get a little bit more melancholy. Grows smaller and smaller.
Fair enough. Oh man.
I have a question, Lord.
You have at it, I'm thinking.
Okay. I'm in charge of a court where I am from as well. Do we have any knowledge that helping you in this endeavor is going to end your conflict? Or are we just helping one side come back? You said it yourself. We are strangers here. Do we have any kind of assurance that our assistance with this will be beneficial?
The conflict never ends. Not true. As summer from to spring, so there will always be a cycle. There will eventually be a rise of Winter Court again. I won't deny that. Even so, your aid here would save many innocent animals and they alike.
How versed are you on the affairs of mortal men of the material plane?
I usually keep my nose out of that sort of... Not often many of your kind come through. Those that do are usually quite mad.
I can attest to that. Is Ito wearing his necklace? Or was that taken from him as well?
You could... Stuff like jewelry you could probably keep on.
I would ask if he knows of the Green Lady. If that name has ever been heard. And if he doesn't react to that, I would ask if he knows the name Avendor Aldera Ituralde.
He sort of takes the holy symbol and looks at it. Huh. Why, yes. Actually, I am familiar with the symbol now that you say it.
That's scary.
It's one I haven't seen in a long time. You would be wise not to show that around the Spring Court. It would not make you any sense.
Connor's losing track. We're fucking with the Winter Court.
You're fucking with the Winter Court and currently talking to the Autumn Court.
just wanted to make sure I had that on track.
It would be wise to keep that well hidden if you came across denizens of that.
I have to read a spell. Oh, this is gonna be bad. I'm not gonna do that. When he says spring court, what is his tone? Is he really like dismissive? Is he violent?
A little bit dismissive.
Oh, this is me trusting Colin to enjoy my character. What if I told you that I was her ancestor?
Then I would say you shouldn't hide that in the spring court. You should not step foot into.
Are they her people or her enemy?
Oh. Suppose both. This green lady used to be queen of the spring court. Long ago. Long ago. But the powers within rose. Her faction failed. Altered. Most of her followers killed. She herself, destined for the chopping block, were she not able to escape. Suppose if you're from the material plane, that's where she went.
To my knowledge, and truth be told, over the last year, my knowledge has proved insufficient. As far as I'm aware, I am purely a mortal man, 14 generations down the line. She was worshipped not unlike a god by my ancestors.
Well, I suppose she might very well seem a god to your kind. Don't find it too insulting. Usually, the shorter-lived races, the magic of a truly powerful fae might seem like a god to them. She was powerful.
Was she... You said she is unfavorable to the spring court, but what about yourself?
It was so long ago that, and of such little consequence, means nothing to me. She never interfered with my plans, and I never... Back then, we were near the height of our strengths. I myself couldn't even tell you the exact time. It could have been thousands of years ago, or it could have been decades. Hard to say with the way time passes here.
So, just to confirm, as an out-of-character question, the way he says that, the wibbly-wobbly nature of time in Feywild, that's a known thing. It's not like it's from because of an outsider's perspective. That's just how time works here.
It's a pretty well known thing. Even amongst the Fae, they know that the time can get a little bit messed up here.
Sorry, Connor has only played in the Feywild once. We've avoided this place for a number of reasons. Well, I thank you for the information. I'm being a lord in my own realm. I'm naturally against joining the affairs of other lords because for obvious reasons, but you have been kind to me and I'm inclined to return that favor.
You would have my absolute thanks. There is something that I can offer you in return. More than just information. It is within my power. Give it to you.
Information would be of a great help, but being that by your own statement, you are not well versed in the realms of men, I would ask that whatever favor you may deign to give later be determined later. Our conflict is not very well known to us, and we're living on that plane of reality, and you're not. I feel to ask for your assistance directly might fall on less than caring ears.
Very well. Said if it is within my power, I will grant it.
Well, Aruna, let's go find you a husband, or dismiss you a husband.
All right. Since we're airing out the dirty laundry, so to speak, what information?
Hey, real quick, Ito wants to look at Aruna dead in the eyes. I'm like, do we just ask him?
I mean, I'll ask him what I'm gonna ask him first, and then you
Okay.
can ask him. What information specifically do you need while we're there? I just want to be straightforward and know exactly what we're doing to try to make a plan and go from there.
I just want to know what they're planning. And God's willing, if there's anything I can do to stop it.
Okay. Do you have parchment by chance?
Of course, we can find something for you to write on.
Wow. I am, because I would have written this down as a character, and I also wrote it down. I'm gonna write down that whole ass "we who gather for the gloom sacrament." Nonsense.
He sends well, he doesn't bring parchment to you. He does basically bring a piece of vellum and a small sort of charcoal right on. No ink, no quills, no paper, but vellum and charcoal.
Okay, I have pretty much word for word the gloom sacrament chant they were doing. And then I tried to remember the runes that they were using, and then the moon and blackout symbol or whatever that was on those trees. I'm gonna put that all down on paper for him, and see if he has more of an understanding of what's going on with the whole bride situation on top of like the sacrament.
Real quick on that note, how are we on the rest situation?
You're welcome to take a long rest at some point.
Okay.
He's not gonna like run you off without the chance to sleep.
At this moment, we've not rested.
You have not rested yet, but he's not gonna run you off before you get to take a rest.
That's fair.
I would cast Prestidigitation on the table and see if I can. Shit, never mind. Prestidigitation doesn't do what I wanted it to do. Disregard.
Okay. But yeah,
I was going to try and give you a 3D, but I forgot that that's create image.
Okay, but I will give him what I have on that.
This may prove fruit. I'll look into it. Right off the top of my head, however, nothing to.
Well, to be transparent, it is not so much a thing or killing the Moonlit King that I'm after. It's more of a person. And I don't know, with the way the Moonlit King acts, if we succeed in what I want and rob him of his bride, what will happen to you? But I need you to keep that in mind that if we're going to make this deal and I end up getting what I want and he finds our association, it may bring more heat down on you.
What does it get for me? Well, one, it doesn't. The Winter Court gets no stronger. That's a pretty good benefit to me.
Sure.
Also gives me leverage, knowing what he wants.
Yeah, well, simple fact is we're essentially going bride kidnapping, which we'll see how that goes.
Interestingly, it's not my first time doing that.
You know, I unfortunately figured you would say something like that. So, in hindsight, the planar shift with you may not have been as much of a dumb idea as previously thought.
Hey man, you pulled me here. I didn't know where we were going.
Well, sometimes
If I remember correctly, the conversation said, "Do you want to come with me?" Sure, why not?
well, regardless,
No, I love this. This is great.
Bear King, we're gonna need some type of winter garments, hopefully transportation or easier way to traverse, a way to talk back and forth if
That
you
can
don't
be
mind,
provided.
and for us to get our pompous human friend here looking a little more elven or fey.
Not an easy task, but one that can be undertaken.
I do have
Ito's gonna lose his beard, isn't he?
I have ways of making him look wintry is the best way of putting it, but they wouldn't last very long under scrutiny, especially if moon elves are prevalent, as that's kind of my wheelhouse of magic.
Yes. Yes, they are. And Moonlit King, he does have a way of looking and seeing through illusions pretty easily. Very well. I would also send with you a scout, someone that's been through these lands. I myself have had some of the more fleet-footed and stealthy members spend quite a bit of time. He can show you all the way to the Moonlit King's court. He can even show you entrances that are not normally, if you wish for him to go. I would ask that you keep an eye on him. He can be a bit flighty and capricious.
If you were to give us a suggestion as to a reason to be there when we are inevitably discovered, any suggestions?
You're a moon elf, yes?
Yes.
Know of this ceremony?
Well, for the most part, at least phase 1 or 2.
That may very well be an inn.
Fair point.
Wait. I think Connor just understood what that means.
Okay.
You said the Winter Court is looking for a bride?
Yes. The Moonlit King is looking for a bride.
Alright, I'll put my hands on Ito's shoulders since he looks confused. Ito, this is going to be a lot to process. I was a very bad little girl. Understand? And my dad is a very, very bad man. And when I didn't do what he wanted, and get married to presumably this Moonlit asshole, he took my sister, okay?
Cause it's a froze court filled up with the hose court. Everybody knows court, sucking on a hose court.
Yes. So in other words, we either go bride snatching, or if I want to be really a martyr, I could present myself and be like, hey, I'm better than her. That is a backup plan that I was thinking about. I just didn't want to come out and say it. This is a lot of talking. I'm going to shut up.
Do you even know if your sister is here?
Well, they certainly. If there's lots of moon elves here, presumably yes. And the individual I talked to, that I made this mask for, certainly knows that she's here. I did. Baba Yaga did straight up say that she's been through here, right? Or was it just moon elves?
She said she had been through the forest outside of Primrose.
Yeah. Well, regardless of what's happening, that I think is the inevitable end goal, or she's to be presented as one. If she is not already the top candidate, chances are she's here to be presented as a candidate. If that makes sense. Because if there's anything my father likes, it's more power and more leeway. And if his daughter gets selected as a moonlit bride, I'm sure that would go a long way.
Maybe. Who knows? It could really suck.
It could really suck. Anyway, Ito, do you get what I'm laying down here? I shake you violently.
Investigate the Winter Court. Don't get caught. Don't
Yes.
marry anybody.
Yes.
Don't fall in love.
Unless we pretty you up and you look prettier than me, and then it would make a better bride, because that could also work.
I'm not ready to do Colin Clark's Wall Market campaign.
Anyway, Bear King, do you, as Ida said, we may presumably be caught and need to escape, do you have a teleportation circle?
Yes. Not exactly a circle. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can give you an item that would let you come back to this grove. Although, by the time you reach Winter's Court, we will no longer be in it. But it would at least take you away.
Fair. Okay.
That is, if it worked with it. And to guarantee all of this will work with the whole Moonlit King's Court.
That's fair. Shit. And I don't think in my notes anywhere I don't have a committed teleportation circle, because I think the only one I looked at was an Ertzig, which is probably gone, and I don't know if I committed the sigils to memory. Right?
Is that really the place you want to go back to?
Oh no, I was just saying I think that's the only one that I've seen, like in game, that I know.
You show up in the middle of a pile of rubble.
Better
with
than
rocks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking. I don't have any other teleportation circles to go to, so that's tragic. Well, let's hope it works out. I will. Shit. I'm gonna try to shake his hand because we're making a deal.
All right, you sort of reach your hand up to him, having to be like reach up at him as he towers over you, and his massive bare hand just dwarfs yours, as it wraps around and he shakes it up and down, and despite the fact it doesn't look like he's really putting a lot of effort into it, he like almost yanks you off your feet. I guess unsurprisingly, extremely powerful.
Yeah.
But he does shake your hand and says, "It is a deal."
Okay. For the first time in a long time, I'll do a courtly bow to this gentleman.
At the very least, may want to meet your scout that will be working with you. And he sort of motions for one of the tiny little sprites to come over. As it darts over. Yes, Bear King? This is a quickling named Keysby. He has been an ever steadfast member of my court. He's made more than one journey into the realms of winter. That's right, Bear King! I've seen everything! Twice! 3 times!
This may be more enthusiasm than I think Reed could muster.
It like darts up to you with incredible speed and lifts up its tiny little hand. Name's Keesby!
I will shake his hand.
Ah, your hand's really big!
Proffer a finger.
It grabs your finger and shakes it.
Nice to meet you. Is it Keesby?
Keesby!
Okay. I will look at the Bear King and I will say, my friend mentioned some form of communication would be of assistance.
Of course.
Actually, that's a point. Do our earrings work here?
I don't have one still, so.
Your earrings would work still on the plane. And they would not be able to send to the other earrings, but they can send to each other. If you had another one here, it could send to you.
Oh, I would advise that something about that be done. I would feel a very strong chance that we would be separated at some point.
Well, I suppose perhaps I can. I don't know if I can get something as permanent as an earring, but I could probably work something out. Yes, I'm sure I can.
Anything that's given to us, I'm sure if we have the opportunity, it will be returned.
I will dwell on it overnight and work at it. Rest. You seem weary. In the morning, woes and cold and tired shall all be gone. You'll be able to tire yourself properly. We'll evaluate what the next day brings.
Before the night is over and whatever it is, the festivities are over. I would ask if my effects could be brought to me.
Of course, they should be clean by this point. May still be a bit damp. When you go over them, I assure you nothing has been taken.
In that case, I don't think Ito would be able to resist taking up the DOS lute and attempting to play a song.
Alright. As soon as you sort of bring the lute out, several of the quicklings gather around, Keesby at the front saying, "We love music!" Yes, it's been quite a long time since we've had music beyond the sound of leaf fall, gentle rustle of wind through the boughs. I myself, he sort of holds up his massive bare hands. Afraid I have little talent for such dexterous things.
I'm not sure how much talent I have, but I think my mentor would behead me if I was in your court and didn't at least attempt.
Okay.
So,
right.
Okay. This is quick. This is to back Ito up. This is the only reason I'm interjecting. Is there a flute available for one of these nice fey creatures? Because I have flute tool proficiency. I can back you up on the flute, brother.
No, Ito doesn't have a flute. He has the lute, and it was
okay.
Violet.
Can I ask Keesby if he can find me a flute?
Keesby nods his head. Of course, of course! And he darts away. He returns after probably maybe 20 seconds with it's a smaller reed flute. It's not, it's a little bit uncomfortable for you. It's very small. But it will service as Keesby sort of hands it to you and claps excitedly like, "Let's hear it!"
Okay. Oh god. What can I play? London Bridge?
You both play Hot Cross Buns.
Okay. Basically, I just want to back Ito up so he makes a good impression. So, like, I just want to help him in some way, shape, or form.
The Bear King says, "This version of Hot Cross Buns is fire."
He got me a flute, and I said I can play London Bridge, and Colin said fucking the hot cross buns.
All right.
Okay, 18.
Both of you
I
give me
forget.
a performance check.
I'm not as good.
We got an 18. Oh no.
Okay, so listen. My proficiency bonus makes that a 10.
So it's okay. Definitely not on the level of Ito, as his fingers strum across DOS loot with incredible deftness and speed. In contrast, the awkward size of the lute, you do have the occasional misfingering of the holes, and sometimes you blow a little bit too hard and it makes a high-pitched squeaking sound, but you do get through it. And even so, despite the mediocre performance by Aruna, it has thoroughly impressed all the quicklings that have all gathered around, surrounding you, and even several of the animals perched nearby, their heads resting on nearby tables, and one of them resting its head on the knee of the Bear King, who sits cross-legged and watches you with a little smile on his face, his eyes closed as he enjoys the music, even taking the time to compliment you, saying, "It was wonderfully written. What do you call that?"
Well, truth be told, it was not meant to be written as with a flute accompaniment. God, I don't know how to improvise a song title. Fuck you, Colin.
Little boy blue and the man in the moon.
Dirk Diggler and the 13-inch cock.
Chickapoo.
Homeward. It's called Homeward.
I could sense the longing in it. Very nice. Very nice. You're able to retire happy, well fed. The compliments of the quicklings and the Bear King and still ringing in your ears. You're able to get, if you want to, by the time all this performance is done, you're able to reclothe yourself. The clothes are no longer completely damp. There's a couple little damp places, but you've definitely been in far more uncomfortable clothing and far worse. And it's certainly much better suited for travel than the leaf cloaks that you were given.
We have one final request of information, and this may fall on deaf ears. But as a being of such ancient bearing, and I'll pull out the star scope, and I'll ask him if he can give me any kind of information. And I will caution him not to put him on the same level of us mortals. But when I look through it, things tend to go a little awry.
He takes it and he looks straight through it, and he sort of scans around looking at you. He looks at nearby trees and he sort of takes it away from his eye. He looks through it again, eyes sort of squinting. Curious object. What would you like to know about it?
What would you like? This is a Connor breaking question, because Connor knows more about this than Ito does. I guess, yeah, all Ito knows about it is it has a dragon's eye in it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's seen some fucked up shit when you look through it.
When I've looked through this,
I mean, you got information from Gin on it as well.
I know. I'm trying to piece together things. When I look through this, it is showed things that have become the future.
So I imagine it has.
And on a lark, because we're about to go to bed, and what's the worst that could happen? What do I see when I look at his court through it?
All right. Uh,
Damn it.
roll a wisdom saving throw.
Ito runs streaking into the winter court and is killed.
14.
All right. As you look through the star scope, you do feel a little bit of a headache begin to grow on. It looks like the trees are no longer in this sort of full bloom of orange and brown and red foliage, and there's no animals moving around. It's not the sort of twilight evening. It's dark, pitch black with stars glittering in the sky. The trees bereft of all leaves and snow covering them entirely, built up nearly 2 feet at the bases. And as you pull it away, you have a pretty annoying headache. I know what it is you saw. It's all the very same.
I'm truly sorry, but my past experiences would lead me to believe that that indicates our mission will fail.
It may. Indeed, I would say it is a very likely outcome, is considered. Even so, this shows futures that the future is never in for certain. It's never written in stone. It may show you what the most likely future. But I don't believe that that is our future. Not if we succeed.
Thank you for your time, and I will
And he
pack
sort
it
of
away.
he says the tapestry of fate is always being weaved. One of those words.
I will thank him for his time, his meal, and the pleasantries of his court, and the opportunity to serenade him.
Of course.
So, yeah.
He has a it's not like a bed, but he has soft sort of, it's like a bedroll that's laid out. It's made of pretty warm and soft sheets, and you're able to cover yourself. There's a pillow that's made of fine silk, or feels like silk, and beautifully blended cotton that you lay your head on. It's as good a bedroll as you've ever slept on. You suspect there might be a little bit of magic that has gone into it. It's warm against the ground, and you don't feel the bugs crawling on you in the night. Well, the equivalent of night. It does seem that the sky does darken a little bit, but it never leaves that twilight. As you close your eyes and drift off, waking up the next day, essentially 8 hours later, the sky is a little bit brighter. It resembles more like late afternoon into early evening.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. That's a long rest then.
Yes, and you do take a long rest. You sleep for 8 hours.
Okay. So I snap awake. If you don't mind me
Snap.
bugging Ito real quick.
You snap awake after your long rest.
Ito.
I'll say, as soon as you snap awake and look around, you can see Keesby is sort of excitedly sitting cross-legged nearby with a back against the tree. He has a large leather satchel over his he wears that over his shoulder, and he's no longer garbed in the simple sort of bright colored clothing that you saw the other quicklings wearing before. It's now very dull gray and white.
Okay.
Do I still have a headache?
You say what?
Do I still have a headache?
No. After the long rest, it's disappeared.
Okay. So Ito,
Listening, I'm just turning my light on.
Okay. Hear me out. I had a dream. This is gonna be really stupid. So instead of you trying to look like a Winter Court fellow, which may or may not work, you know what a servant acts like, right?
Yes.
Okay. Say I'm prim proper moon elf lady, and I have manservant from the prime material plane. See what I'm see? But you provide entertainment and make the rich folks happy, and we work off of that, maybe.
Also wearing scale mail and carrying a longsword.
Yeah, I mean, if someone tries to take my servant, you can defend yourself. But you would never raise a hand against me. That's the important part. Anyway, it's a workshopping idea. Just they like the pompous aspects, I figure, and
I have a
everyone-
feeling that whatever cover we decide to go with is likely going to be altered or decided on the spot.
but I like this idea.
We can try.
Also, little you're not a fairy. You're not a fairy. I forget what you call yourself. You're Keysby.
Keysby
I
the
know that.
Quickling.
The Quickling. Are you a creature that's welcome in the Winter Court, or do you have a disguise, or do you turn invisible, or what exactly?
He nods his head vigorously. Keysby has ways of finding darkness.
Okay. Anyway, Keysby, did the Bear King find any way of disguising my friend here, or do we have to go with the he's my servant idea?
Keysby sort of nods his head and says, "Well, the Bear King suggested that he pose as a servant."
Okay. Fantastic. I'm glad the Bear King has the same sense of irony as I do. Is Connor actually here?
Says, Aladrin think less of humans. They'd never hold him as an equal. They can always have a way of telling. Illusions don't work that well.
Yeah.
Not for the Moonlit King. Not for his court.
So bad news, Ito. Bear King also thinks servant idea is really good.
I don't mind. I spend most of my days pretending to be something I'm not anyway.
Keysby sort of glumly says, they won't see you as an equal. It's like they don't see me as an equal. Keysby can hide. You?
Okay.
Not so much. Much too big. Keysby finds shadows.
Okay. Well, we just need to get him through the front door and, like, semi-adjacent to my location.
And just to confirm, he was real vague about what we're looking for, right? Just what he's planning. He didn't give us an object, right?
Yes, generally he knows that something big is going on. They're planning something. He's not sure of the details. And he hasn't been able to confirm anything, but he kind of wants to know what they're planning. Exactly what is going on in the Winter Court.
Well, if...
You have sending, right?
Yeah, I have the ability to contact him, and he said he would get away for us to contact him. But I figure whatever they're doing, if you remember from the forest, all the chanting and big bullshit. Chances are, what they're doing is going to be very big and easily noticeable, if that makes sense. They're going to make a show of it, if anything. So I think if just getting me in, it'll be pretty apparent what's going on, and we can go from there. Yeah? Big sacrament. Big sacrament energy.
Big sacrament energy. One step already done. Bathing in black moonlight.
Excellent.
Did say that we can just leave, right?
Well,
Back in our plane.
Can you go back to your plane? That's
No, I think doesn't Aruna have that ability or no?
She does not. Not anymore. she was able to get you there with a 5th level spell slot, but until she gets... but it was specifically specified you can cast Plane Shift in that forest as a 5th level spell. You're no longer in that forest, and including the area of the Feywild. It's technically a different forest on a on a mirror plane, but it's not the same forest. So you would need a 7th level spell to cast it to get out.
Good news is I can transport us to Erzig if we find a circle. And I like shit-eating grin. Anita, like, yeah.
Well, make Ito and Aruna make just a straight intelligence check. I'll even tell you, make a history or arcana check.
Well, that's not very good for me.
Well, travel itself between planes is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there are already pre-existing doors between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any pre-existing joinders between the Feywild and the material plane?
There is the shitty hotel we stayed in.
Yes, there is the inn. Specifically, they actually ran into members of the Moonlit Court Inn. That is a permanent transference point where the two, just in a small area, the two planes are merged. So that would be a way to get back.
Oh,
if
okay.
considering all other ways.
Yeah, this is a. You probably know since you wrote it more than me. As far as my crew, Moon Elves, I know as a wizard it's like pretty high level magic to go back and forth.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Pretty high level magic.
How many people roughly would be able to do that, like in my clan?
How
like,
many
other than, like,
people?
Like
overall?
How many high level spellcasters overall do I know of other than like my dad? Because
no more than 2 or 3.
okay, so that would lead me to believe if there's lots of Moon Elves, there's a crossing point or a way to get here that isn't
Yeah, something.
them able to use magic.
Something like that. Like I said,
Okay.
how many people can you bring? So they could be if they had 2 or 3, they could all bring maximum amount. So there could be,
Yeah.
a few just based on that.
But I'd say there's a decent percentage that there is a gateway. Probably, it's pretty accessible.
It's possible.
Okay, so we don't know how we're gonna get back. That's cool.
Okay, so important point also, recollecting the inn situation. If the pompous asshole that we kind of fought in the inn recognizes me, the jig is going to be up pretty quickly, I think.
I mean, that's true. It's possible. But he's just one guy.
Yeah, but he was trying to win favor with the Winter Court, which means he's probably like obnoxious and running all over the place. Shit. Is it time for me to have my anime haircut where I change my look slightly so I'm less noticeable?
You put one single bang over your eye and you dye it slightly off color.
Hell yeah, dude.
Anyway. Question.
Yeah.
Foundry character sheet has 0 out of 0 spell slots.
Same, but
Foundry's character sheet, like I said, it just got updated, so a whole bunch of shit is fucked up on it.
Yep.
I know,
use the D&D Beyond character sheet.
That's what I've been doing.
That is, at the end of the day, the easiest thing to do.
Okay, I got that. Well, alright. I guess let's go.
I mean, there's not really another option, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Take us to the moonlit court.
I'm good.
Easby.
Do you want to end there or keep going?
My wife is going to bed, she says. So
That doesn't mean anything to me. Are you trying to go get ready or something, or?
give me 1 second.
All right, I'm gonna go pee then. Fast. All right. You wake up. The Bear King himself has done what preparations he can for you. Indeed, he has produced what appears to be a handful of maybe 4 bear, like relatively small handful. They're pretty sizable berries, however. You know, maybe the size of like a. It's hard to explain. Like this big. The size of like a gumball or something, essentially. Berries of very sort of bright red sort of nature, held in a brown pouch that he hands to you and says, "If you should decide you need to send a message, all you have to do is eat one of these and be able to cast sending."
And he gives us how many of these?
He's got 4 of them.
For each of us, or to share?
To share.
Okay, so 2 each.
Yeah.
I mean, that is certainly enough information.
Of course, warm weather clothing, as he produces 2 very sturdy wolf fur cloaks, that you're able to wrap around you. The one on you, Aruna, significantly nicer than the one he gives to Ito, which is a little bit tattered, as you are going for a certain for Ito, one being able to appear more of a servant to you. It's a little bit dirtier, a little bit more tattered. He also gives Ito a very large, sort of rough overshirt that he can wear over his armor. It's sort of dull brown, but it does hide his armor very well. As he says, if you're going to pose as a servant or aid of some sort, it might be best to keep to the initial inspection your armor, weapons.
No, I couldn't think of a better plan, so.
He nods his head. You actually see Keesby is nowhere to be seen, having already disappeared into the trees. But you can hear him faintly say, this way, friends! Keesby can show you the way."
What's his plan if we get caught?
Keesby?
Yeah.
Very sneaky.
Keesby says, "If you get caught, you get head chopped off. Keesby not get head chopped off. He run away. Keesby good at finding shadows. Keesby always finds shadows."
Good to know.
Keesby's not gonna stick around to help you out. If you get caught, you get the feeling.
That's
Got it. Okay. Well, cool. Until next time, lads.
Right. The 2 of you set out, following the calls of Keesby through the forest, as slowly the sky turns from dull orange to dark purple, and soon black, with starlight sputtering across the sky. And as you walk onwards through the trees, no longer covered in the rich oranges and reds and browns of fall, you can see slowly a moon start to rise. The moon itself, actually only about 3/4 full now, as it slowly crests over the horizon above the treetops. End it right there. Pick it up next week.